Hi, everybody. Welcome back to your day 9 notes. Today, we're going to be graphing lines and parabolas. For today's lesson, you're going to be needing something to draw a straight line with, writing utensils, and a calculator. All right, so today's idea is we're going to be graphing lines and parabolas. Our goal, given the equation of a line and a parabola, you will be able to graph both shapes. All right, so today is all about graphing, and we're going to kick it off by taking a look at graphing lines. All right, the first type of line that we are going to look at is just the equation of a line. Now, the equation of a line, we're talking about the equation of a diagonal line. So your line could go upwards or it could go downwards. All right, so whenever you have a line that's on a diagonal, the equation is going to be y equals mx plus b. The letter M stands for your slope. Now, your slope is going to be the direction of the line. Usually, the slope is in the form of a fraction. And that fraction is going to be rise over run. So it's a up or down is the top number, and the bottom is going to be left and right. All right, and then the B value, so the number that you're adding or subtracting, that's going to be your y-intercept. That's going to be the number that you start plotting your line on the y-axis, which is the axis that goes up and down. All right, so those are the equations of your diagonal lines. Now, we also have two other special types of lines. The first is a horizontal line. Now, a horizontal line is a line that goes across your paper from left to right. Now, a horizontal line, the slope is 0. All right, the slope is 0. It's not increasing, it's not decreasing, it's just staying the same. Now, the equation for a line that's horizontal is going to be y equals a number value. Okay, so y equals, and that's just going to be a number. So we could have y equals 2. We could have y equals -7. Those are all examples of lines that are going to go straight across your screen from left to right for a horizontal line. Now, the last type of line we have is a vertical line. Now, a vertical line goes straight up and it goes straight down. Now, a vertical line is a unique line because it fails the vertical line test and it is not a function, which means your calculator cannot graph a vertical line. It doesn't know how to do it. And that is because a vertical line has a slope that is undefined. All right, not only is there no slope, the slope is undefined. And that is because it is x equals a number. There's no y in a vertical line. So x equals 2, or you could have x equals -5. Those are going to be vertical lines going up or down. And if you look at your calculator, all of the graphing functions are right below the screen. There's a y equals, but there's no x equals. So your calculator cannot graph that vertical line. Okay, now that we've gone over the equations, we're going to practice graphing a few of these. All right, so let's take a look at example number 1. Graph the equations on the coordinate grid below. So here's our coordinate grid. It's just a graph. So your x-axis goes from left to right. Your y-axis goes up and down. All right, so the first equation we're going to graph is y equals 2/3 x minus 5. Since this is in the form y equals mx plus b, we know that this is going to be a diagonal line. Now, the number that is directly in front of the x, this is going to be your slope. So our slope here is going to be 2/3, and that's going to be rise over run. Now, the number here, this is your b value. This is going to be your y-intercept, and this y-intercept is -5. So that means on your y-axis going up or down, we're going to start at -5. So go down to -5 and put a point there. This is our very first point. Now, our slope is 2/3. It's rise over run. Now, since it's positive, that means you're going to go up 2 spaces and then you're going to go over 3 spaces, and you always go to the right. 1, 2, 3. And then we go up 2 spaces and then over 3 spaces. And you always want to be right where the grid spaces intersect. So you're always kind of at the vertex of those coordinate grids. So then up 2 over 1, 2, 3. Once you have a couple of points drawn, you're going to take your straight edge and we're going to connect them and draw a straight line. You want to go all the way across the graph. And then at one of the arrows, we're just going to write down the equation. So 2/3 x minus 5. All right, next up, let's take a look at part B. Now we're going to graph the line y equals -1/2 x plus 7. So this is our slope. Our slope is a -1/2, which means we're going to rise over run, and our y-intercept is equal to 7. Okay, so you always start. So y-intercept, you can also say that's your starting point. So we're going to start at +7. So on the y-axis going up or down, we're going to go up to 7. And we're going to put a point there. That's your first point. Now our slope is -1 over 2. So rise over run. Now since it's a -1, instead of going up, we're going to go down. And remember, you always go to the right, over 2. Down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2. Okay, and once you have 3 or 4 points, that's enough. You can use your straight edge and draw your line going all the way across your grid. And remember, at one of your arrows, we're going to write down the equation. Y equals -1/2 x plus 7. Okay, for this next example, what I want you to do, because I made a little mistake and I want you to try something a little bit different. So I'm going to cross this whole equation out. And here's what I want you to write. I would like you to write 8x plus 4y equals 20. 8x plus 4y equals 20. All right, this is the next line that I would like us to graph. However, this graph has a y and an x, but it's not in the correct form, which is y equals mx plus b. So that means we have to transpose. We want to get the y by itself and move everything to the other side. So when we do that, the first thing we're going to do is keep the y there. We need to subtract the 8x to the other side. So it's a +8x, so I'm going to go -8x. All right, the 8x's are going to cancel. And now we're going to get 4y is equal to -8x plus 20. Now we need to get that y by itself, and there's a 4 in front. So now we're going to divide everything by 4. I like to write them out individually so I don't forget. All right, the 4's here are going to cancel, so we get y is equal to, now -8 divided by 4 is -2x, and then 20 divided by 4 is 5. All right, so here's the equation that we want to graph. Now, in this equation, we need to break it down. So our slope is -2. But this is a positive number. In slope, we like to use rise over run. We want to make it a fraction, so we're going to put this over 1. So we're going to rise -2, which actually means we're going down -2. And then we're going to go to the right 1. Okay? And then our starting point, our y-intercept, is going to be 5. All right, so let's go over and let's graph this now. So we're going to start at +5. Again, that's on the y-axis, so we go up to 5. And now we use our slope. So -2, so we go down 2 to the right 1. Down 2 to the right 1. Down 2 to the right 1. And now we can connect all of those points. And we have our third line. Now, when we label this line, you can use either the original or you can use your converted equation. I'm going to use the converted. So y equals -2x plus 5. And we have got it. All right, up next, D. We want to graph y equals 9. All right, y equals 9. There's no x there, so let's go back. Y equals a number. That's going to be a horizontal lines. It's going to go straight across our screen. So y equals 9. On your y-axis, go to 9, and you're going to put a little point there. So we want to make a horizontal line going through the value of 9. And there we go. So this is y equals 9. All right, our last one we have here is x equals negative 8. Now there's no y there, it's just x equals a number. So if we go back up to the top, x equals a number, that's going to be a vertical line. It's going to go up and down, and we want it to go through negative 8. So if we want it to go up and down, that means on the x-axis, go over to negative 8, and I want to draw a line that goes through that value. X equals negative 8. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how we graph all of our lines. Okay, let's flip the page over now. And now let's practice. If you have a picture, can you write the equation of a line? So let's go ahead and give it a try. So use the picture to the right to answer the following questions. Well, if we look here, this is a diagonal line. So is this line going to be y equals mx plus b, x equals a number, or y equals a number? Go ahead and click your choice. All right, so the correct answer is it's going to be y equals mx plus b because this is a diagonal line. So in order to write the equation of a diagonal line, we need the y-intercept and the slope. So if we look carefully, the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. It's the starting point. So on my y-axis, I'm going to go, and here's my y-intercept. So what number is that? We'll start at the origin, and we count up. So that's 1, 2, 3. So our y-intercept is a positive 3. Now, we want to calculate the slope. To figure out the slope, you need to find 2 points on your line. So there's one here, and there's another point right here. Now, to go, and you always go from left to right, just like you read a book. So if you go from left to right, from the first point to the second point, so here's our first point and our second point. The first thing you need to notice is your line going up or down? This line is going down, which means our slope is going to be negative. Now we need to count up and down and left and right to know what the slope is. So to go from your first point to your second point, we have to go down 1, 2, 3, and we have to go over 1, 2. All right, so again, we're going down 1, 2, 3, so that's 3, and then we're going over to the side 2. So that means our slope is negative 3 all over 2. So remember, rise up and down first, left and right second. Now that we have the y-intercept and the slope, we can put it all together. So our equation of a line is going to be y equals negative 3 over 2. Now the x goes directly next to the slope, and then our y-intercept plus 3. All right, we've got it. All right, let's try that one again. So number 3, write the equation of the line in the figure below. So look carefully at your line. This is a diagonal line, which means we need to fill in the equation y equals mx plus b. All right, that means the first thing we need to find is the slope, and we also need to find the y-intercept. Okay, to find the slope, you need 2 points. Here's a point. Here's a point. We always go from left to right. So here's your first point. Here's your second point. Okay, now we have to look carefully. Is your line going up or is it going down? You're right, it's going down, which means our slope is going to be negative. So it's going to be a negative. Now we have to count the spaces. So let's see, we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. I can show that too by going 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to go to the side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our slope is going to be negative 4 all over 5. Okay, the second thing we need is the y-intercept. So remember, your y-axis is the axis that goes up and down. So look for the point there. Here it is. Now, what's that value? Start at the origin and count up. 1, 2, 3. It's a positive 3. So that means, let's put it all together. What is going to be the equation of our line? All right, did you choose y equals negative 4 over 5x plus 3? That means you have got it. All right, so let's go ahead and try number 4. Write the equation of the line in the figure below. All right, just like the first two examples, this line is a diagonal line. So that means it's going to be the equation y equals mx plus b. All right, the first thing I would like you to do is look very carefully, and I'd like you to write down what is the slope. All right, let's see, what did you choose? So if you take one point and then another point, our line is going up, so it's positive, and it's going up 1, 2, 3, and then over 1. So it's a positive because it's going up, and it's up 3 over 1. All right. Now the next thing we need to do is write down the y-intercept. Okay, so everybody look carefully now. Look at your y-axis. What point is on the y-axis? All right, did you choose? Let's see, start at the origin. Looks like that's going to be the number. So here's 1, here's 2. So your y-intercept is 2. All right, so now let's put it all together, write the equation. So y equals, we do the slope first, 3 over 1x plus 2. You could have also written that as y equals 3x plus 2. All right, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, you have written the equation of a line. All right, let's flip the page over. All right, the next part for today is graphing parabolas. Now, graphing parabolas gets a little bit trickier. The equation's a little bit more complex. And for this one, we're going to be using our graphing calculators to help us out. All right, before we graph, let's go over some important information about parabolas. Now, parabolas are formed, that's the shape, which is the shape of a U, and it's formed by a quadratic equation. So quadratic equations graph in the shape of a parabola, which looks like a U, or sometimes it will be an upside down U. Now, the way you know that you have a quadratic equation is because of its equation and its powers. So the standard form for a quadratic equation is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. All right, a, b, and c, those are just number values. What's important is that the exponent of the x is squared. That's what makes it quadratic. Okay, other really important things to know about quadratic equations and parabolas is the axis of symmetry. Now, the axis of symmetry is the vertical line that divides the parabola in half. Its equation is always x equals, and it's going to be x equals a number because it's a vertical line, it goes straight up and down, so it's x equals a number. Now, to calculate the axes of symmetry, the formula is x equals negative b all over a. Actually, I'm going to take that out. We're not going to do it that way. I'm going to show you kind of a shortcut to do it, okay? So I'm going to take that totally out of the equation. So don't even worry about that. Just remember your axis of symmetry is always x equals a number. All right, next up, the turning point. The turning point of a parabola is also called the vertex. It is the lowest point or it is the highest point, and it's going to be located where the axis of symmetry meets the parabola. So let's look at these two different parabolas. All right, so if I look at this parabola, it's in the shape of a U. If I wanted to draw my axis of symmetry, remember the axis of symmetry divides the parabola in half. So look, where's the halfway point? Well, it's going to be right here. So that means this would be my axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry. Okay, and then the vertex is going to be the turning point. So let's see, where does this parabola stop going down and start going up? Right here. So this right here, this is your vertex. Now, is this vertex at the bottom or is it at the top? Well, it's at the bottom, which means it's called a minimum. A minimum is the smallest value, or it's the bottom value. All right, then if we look down here at the second parabola, so this is an upside down U, let's start by drawing the axis of symmetry. So we look for the halfway, and if I were to draw a line to cut this parabola in half, it would be right here. So this is going to be my axis of symmetry. All right, and then the vertex is going to be the turning point. So it's going to be where it changes direction. So the turning point then is going to be right here. So this is your vertex. Now look carefully, is that vertex the top point or the bottom point? It's the top point, which we like to call the maximum. So this parabola has a maximum value. Okay, so if we go back over to our notes, a maximum is when your vertex is at the top. A minimum is when your vertex is at the bottom. All right, final part for parabolas, the roots, which are also known as the zeros. That is where a parabola crosses the x-axis. So if we look at our top parabola, here is a root, and here is a root. It's where they cross the x-axis. Now, if you look at the next one, again, we have two roots. It's where it crosses the x-axis. All right, so now we have all of the vocabulary we need, so we can go ahead and start graphing. Okay, so part 2, graphing your parabolas. Now, when you're graphing parabolas, here are going to be your steps. Step 1, graph the equation in your calculator. Look at the graph to determine where the axis of symmetry is located. Then we're going to create a table of values and put the axis of symmetry in the middle. We're going to do 3 values above and 3 values below. We're going to plot our points, draw our parabola, and then label. Okay, so number 1, we want to graph the function f of x equals negative x squared minus 3. Now, f of x is called function notation. F of x is just a fancy way for writing y equals. So we can change that and make it a y. All right, so if I look at this equation, the x is being squared, which means it's going to be a quadratic equation and it's going to graph into a parabola. So I'm going to take my calculator. Step 1 is to go to y equals. If anything is there, you're just going to hit the clear button and clear it out. Now we're going to type in negative, so the negative button's down the bottom, negative. Then x is the number next to the green button. So next to the green button, there's your x. And then minus 3. All right, now we're going to hit graph. All right, I did something wrong. It's not looking right. It should look like a U. So I'm going to go back. All right, I forgot to square it. But let's say you hit graph and you got something that said error. You need to reset your calculator. So to fix that, you're going to turn your calculator off. Now that the calculator is off, okay, you're going to follow these directions. Push and hold the left arrow, push and hold the right arrow, then hit the on button and hold everything at the same time. Okay, by doing that, Oops, so let's see. It kind of came off my screen. Left arrow, right arrow, I hit on. Now watch my screen. It says reset complete. I let go. All right, and now everything is resetted. So I'm going to go to y equals, now I can type it in again, negative x squared, and then minus 3. I hit graph. Now I can see my parabola. Okay, so now the first thing we have to do is figure out, well, where's the axes of symmetry? Where's the middle? So the middle looks like it is the y-axis. So what's the x value, the middle value for the x's? Well, that's going to be 0. So I'm going to go here now and I'm going to write a table of values. And I'm going to put 0 in the middle because 0 is going to be my middle x value. All right, then I want to go 3 values below, so -2, -1, -2, -3, and then +1, 2, 3. Now, to get the y values that go with those x values, we hit second table. All right, I want to take that 0 and put it in the middle of my table, so there we go. And now if we look carefully, we have some symmetry. -12, -12, -7, -7, -4. Well, look at that, we got it. So now we can write in those values, -12, -7, -4, -3, -4, -7, -12. So now I have the same numbers on both sides. Okay, we can go ahead now and graph this. Now the -12s, those are not going to fit. My graph doesn't go that far, so I cross those off. So I'm going to start at -2, -7, -1. Oh, -2, -1, -4, 0, -3, 1, -4, and 2, -7. And then we can draw our U shape. And this is y equals -x squared minus 3. Now we have some follow-up questions. So the first question, what is the turning point? So the turning point is this point right here. It's that middle point. And if I look at my table, it's also the middle point in my table. So it is going to be the point 0, -3. Next, is the turning point a maximum or a minimum? Well, let's look carefully. Is this point the top point or the bottom point? It's the top point, which means it's a maximum. And then the next one, what is the equation for the axes of symmetry, or the line of symmetry, which is the line that goes through the middle? Well, that's going to be, remember, it's always x equals, and this would be x equals 0. And we have got it. All right, let's go ahead. We're going to try one more together. Okay, next up, number 2. So number 2, we're going to cross off. We're going to go right down to number 3. Graph and label. So if we look at our equation, our x is being squared, which means this is going to be a parabola because it's a quadratic. So we have to use our calculators for these. So I go to y equals, clear it out. Now let's type it in. -x squared minus 2x minus 7. Then I want to hit the graph button. We need to know what it looks like. Ooh, look at that. It's just a little teeny tiny one. Okay, so now in order to graph this, we need a table of values, which means I need an x and y. I need to figure out what numbers are going to go through there. Now remember, we need to put a middle number in here. So if this is your parabola, it's an upside down U. Where's the middle? So I'm looking, the middle looks like it's about here. And then if I go up, what's the x value? Well, that x value is going to be about -1. So let's put a -1 there. Now I can go to my table of values. So second graph, that takes you to the table of values. Now I want to put -1 in the middle. Right now my -1, almost in the middle, but not quite. So I'm going to go up one more. Now -1 is in the middle. Now look at your y values. Look at the top y value and the bottom y value. Are they the same? Yep. Now go to the second from the top, second from the bottom. They're the same. And the same, which means we have our symmetry. This is the table of values we want to use. So -4, -15, -3, -10, -2, -7, -1, -6, 0, negative 7, 1, negative 10, and 2, negative 15. Okay, I can put my calculator away now because we have all of our points. Now, we can't fit negative 15 on the graph, so we're going to cross those off, but we can plot all of the other points. So let's go ahead and plot those. Negative 3, negative 10. Negative 2, negative 7. 1, negative 6. 0, negative 7. And 1, negative 10. Okay, now we need to answer some follow-up questions. So, what is the vertex? So, the vertex point is right here. What are the coordinates of that point? Negative 1, negative 6. Next up, is the turning point a maximum or a minimum? So, to do that, you need to look carefully. Is this point a top point or is it the bottom point of the parabola? Well, it's the top point, which means the maximum. So a maximum is at the top, a minimum is at the bottom. Next up, what is the equation of the line of symmetry? So look back at your notes. Is the line of symmetry always x equals or y equals? You got it. It's always x equals. So x equals, so if you were to draw your line of symmetry, what x value does it go through? So follow it up. It goes through negative 1, and you have got it. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we focused on graphing lines and graphing your parabolas. What I'd like you to do now, there's only 3 practice problems for today. I would like you to give those a try, fill them out on your Google form. As soon as you're done with that, you're going to come back into our Google Meet and we're going to go over the solutions together. All right, folks, have a great rest of your day.